So I guess we're going to start this episode with some CNN reporting just to get everybody on the same page of the insanity that's going down. Send it.
Sarah Milgram and Yaron Lashinsky, two Israeli embassy employees, were shot dead in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday night. Eyewitness video obtained by CNN appears to show the suspect in the deadly shooting as he's taken into custody.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Washington Metropolitan Police has identified the suspect as 30-year-old Elias Rodriguez from Chicago. The shooting happened near the Capitol Jewish Museum.
Prior to the shooting, the suspect was observed pacing.
This is Pamela Smith, chief of the Metropolitan Police Department of D.C.
Back and forth outside of the museum. He approached a group of 4 people, produced a handgun, and opened fire, striking both of our decedents.
Police say the suspect then went inside the museum, where he was arrested soon after.
All right. So, well, folks, it's been a good ride, but free speech as we know it, as the kids say, is completely cooked. Chat. Yes, chat. We're cooked. So I'm about 5 hours ahead of New York and London right now, and I woke up to every right-wing propagandist and politician salivating over the prospect of a new crackdown over Elias Rodriguez, a 30-year-old man from Chicago who has been arrested by U.S. authorities following the killing of 2 Israeli embassy workers on Wednesday evening. A man and a woman identified as Yaron Lashinsky and Sarah Milgram were pronounced dead at the scene near the Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C., about 1 mile from the Capitol. Quote, prior to the shooting, the suspect was, oh, wow, I'm actually quoting the exact CNN report, so we're going to skip that. So the independent journalist Ken Klippenstein seems to have published what could be the shooter's manifesto, which we will get into. It's lucid, well-written somewhat, and cites historical precedents from the Vietnam War about political violence. I don't spend a lot of time on false flag conspiracy theories, as you guys know, because either way, the performative effect is still the same. Just like the Indian authorities used the recent Pahalgam terror attack in Kashmir to crack down on the region and further persecute Muslims on the subcontinent, our own stalwart leaders will use this to crack down on the Palestine movement and, by extension, other left or center-left movements in the United States, from anti-ICE activism to pro-choice voices. Right-wing governments use the pretext of security in the face of terrorism to attain what they always planned on attaining: domination and racial supremacy, generally along class lines. So, yeah, dude, how you doing?
Good, man. I pretend that I don't know jack shit about the situation.
Okay, well, let's see. Mark's having computer trouble, so he's going to have to call in from his phone. Let me just jack the volume up a little bit because you seem a little.
Is it distant?
Oh, yeah. So just really get your face in there so we can see your.
Well, yeah. keep talking. I'm gonna grab my my headphones.
Okay, so Yair Lapid, former Israeli prime minister and centrist opposition leader to Netanyahu, posted today, quote, "The horrific double murder in Washington, D.C. was an act of anti-Semitic terrorism and a direct result of the incitement we've seen at the protests across the world. This is what they always meant by, quote, globalize the Intifada." So, bye-bye free speech and dissent. Here we are at Colonial Outcasts. We will miss you, as if we weren't already being heavily shadow banned on all platforms, including audio platforms. In case we get shut down in the coming days by perhaps covering this story, you can subscribe to us on Patreon for free and have access to all our regular content without a paywall. Link in description. So, hi, Mark. Yes, we were supposed to do our weekly comedic Patreon episode today. I'm in London, about 8 hours ahead of you, and release it tomorrow. But this is too important of a subject because it will actually affect the entire anti-imperialist, anti-fascist movement throughout Europe and North America. Things are going to get gnarlier, so that's fun. Glad to not be in the States right now. I guess the blowback from this hasn't really hit yet. Everyone's still waking up in California. Are things chill?
Things are chill, bruh.
Okay.
I got my Red Bull.
You're going to not be.
Can you hear me good on this?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah, here's the thing. like you said, whether or not this is a false flag, which who knows? I think that if it is a false flag, they're a little bit too late in the game. That's my theory. I think that they played their hand. If they played that hand early on, it would have been more effective. But the biggest problem is that the right wing is now turning anti-Israel. If they would have done this when the right wing was mostly still on Israel's side, it would have been
under Biden at the height of the campus protests.
Yes, they played their hand a little bit too late. Why? They're old men. They're not in tune with the culture in the United States or society. So I think that they're making a lot of miscalculations like we've seen in this past year. I believe every move they've made towards propaganda, manufacturing consent, while it was effective at the beginning, I think that they're making just too many miscalculations when it comes to propaganda. Everybody's seeing through it. You have big public figures like on the right wing, like Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, not Joe Rogan. He's not really on the right, but like you have these different public figures now turning their base against Israel. So if this was designed to be a false flag, to get everybody in this McCarthy period of paranoia against pro-Palestinian supporters, I think it's a little bit too late now that the cat's out of the bag. So if they do start cracking down on free speech, well, then they're going to have to start cracking down on right-wing free speech too, which is not going to play out well, in my opinion. I might be wrong, but that's my preliminary assessment on the situation, regardless of the details that I'm not fully privy to. I just have the basic cliff notes at this point. You've been studying this though, so what's your take though? I want to hear your analysis of what you think will transpire and what will go wrong as they try to attempt it.
Well, they've been trying to bundle their police action with ICE and anti-immigration stuff with pro-Palestine stuff. So this is only going to escalate. So I'm going to get to that, but I think it's interesting you brought up right-wing influencers and podcasters and thought leaders like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson. We, of course, fundamentally don't agree with how they approach Israel and where they come from about it. But it's interesting because I guess the right has always been more like, ooh, government conspiracy, deep state, false flag stuff. And so right now we're seeing a lot of people, because I do like the woke right monitoring, like what MAGA is now calling people who are anti-Israel. They're all like, this is a false flag, and I have no evidence.
wait, real quick about the woke right thing. What's funny is that the part of the right that's being accused of being woke right is accusing the other side of being woke right because they're acting too sensitive to anti-Semitic accusations when you're being critical of Israel. So it's funny how the woke insult is being thrown across the aisle by both sides at each other. So it's interesting.
And we're seeing that blast all over Twitter and other social media platforms. And I'm seeing right-leaning accounts post things like, oh, yeah, the Israelis have never done false flag operations before, and they list them. The Lavon Affair, 1954, USS Liberty attack, 1967, the Entebbe hijacking. Mossad knew about the hijacking of the plane before in 1976. AIPAC espionage scandal, framing U.S. policy direction via stolen land, Operation Trojan Horse, Libya false signal to provoke U.S. bombing, Hezbollah spies in Lebanon, false confessions, all through like the Gaza protest sniper killing framed as self-defense used to justify military ops, Shireen Abu Akleh killing covered up to protect image abroad. Yeah, it just keeps going and going and going. Israeli bomb plot in India staged to blame Iran, 2012. The infiltration of pro-Palestine student encampments, provocation, and surveillance. Like, this is long-standing. Oh, yeah. Also, one thing they didn't mention, the under the Reagan administration, when the Marine base was bombed, like, there is strong evidence that the Mossad had foreknowledge, but they didn't alert U.S. officials in order to get us involved in the fight against Hezbollah. So, yes, there is a precedent. But
and by the way, if There goes my bookshelf again. If you want to know more about the situation of how the American public found out about about how the American public became privy to the fact that the Israelis knew about the Beirut bombing, you got to read this book, By Way of Deception. The ex Mossad agent. It's one of the first books in U.S. history that was actually had a court order restricting it, and that's actually what led to it being a bestseller. So, anyways, keep going.
Yeah. So so basically, I think that's at the forefront of a lot of people's minds. I think we're just going to leave the false flag there. It would be absurd to say it's not. It's out of the realm of possibility. There's also no evidence for it yet, and it could very well be just a rogue actor. The timing is very conspicuous, though. Right after Israel yesterday shot at European diplomats in the West Bank, right after Britain, France, and Canada came out with an open letter condemning them. It was a strongly worded letter. It doesn't do anything materially, but it does change the narrative. And the European Union is going to reevaluate all their trade agreements with Israel. And that was all happening within the past 48 hours. And then this happens. It's kind of weird. So let's talk about what's happening. So Senator Tom Cotton, our favorite asshole from Arkansas, who accused me of being funded by, quote, the Chinese Communist Party, writes on Twitter, "On behalf of all Arkansans, I extend deepest condolences for the tragic loss of Yaron Lachinsky and Sarah Lynn Milgram to their families and our Israeli friends. I condemn these anti-Semitic murders and the wave of depraved anti-Semitic incitement that contributed to this atrocity. This terrorist attack, mere blocks from the Capitol, is what they mean when they chant globalize the Intifada." Second reference we've got to that. We must not only get justice for these murders, but also oppose bravely, strongly, and consistently anti-Semitism in all its forms. So we are seeing the coordinated focus on the protest slogan, globalize the Intifada, from right-wing politicians and Israeli propagandists. Okay. So this is just another evolution of the ill-fated global war on terror, from my perspective, which has never ended and will now turn inward, not only on Muslims, but anyone who opposes the war state. When we say that fascism is imperialism turned inwards, this is what we mean. Also, let me pull this up. Okay. You're going to love this. So 1 second. This was Nancy Mace. I got to go to the CIA Twitter's account because it is really funny. Where is it? Okay. So the CIA's Twitter account right after this posted the front gate at headquarters. Yeah. The front gate at headquarters is closed until further notice.
Oh, God.
Please use alternative routes for Thursday, May 22nd.
Oh, God. Calm down.
Yeah,
Calm
so
down,
I replied,
Langley.
"Yeah, y'all are such drama queens. How many CIA operatives, officials, and analysts monitor Twitter for organizational updates? Can't wait for the global war on terror 2.0 crackdown that's coming, all in the name of protecting genocidal Israel states. America first, baby."
Goddamn Langley, their internal communication systems must be broken down. They got to use Twitter to communicate to their staff members. Yeah, it's good that we're pointing this out, though, because what we're doing is we're building a picture for the people who are out of the loop on this, or who are just kind of ignorant, that they're really trying to frame and set up this whole paranoia.
Yeah,
to sweep the nation.
Absolutely.
It is not going to work. I'm just going to call it right now. It is not going to work. In fact, I think it's going to backfire.
Okay,
I think. Yeah, go ahead. Keep going. Sorry.
No. I agree with you. I just wanted to, before I forget, because I've been doing interviews all days and I'm kind of like brain dead. Before I forget, I just wanted to say, like, we don't have enough information to know what's going on right now, and we probably won't, maybe ever, what's happening with this. But it doesn't matter, because they're going to do what they were already want to do, which was tighten down authority and the grip on institutional grip and on all of us, essentially.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's fun that the CIA is kind of stoking that.
So funny. Drama queens. That's a perfect word for that.
Okay, and you know, and before I wrap up this whole like intro thing, and I know you don't have a lot of time. It's going to be a short episode, guys, just to make some remarks about what to look forward to in the coming days. Republican Representative Nancy Mace also posted. She's the one who went on a tear about the gender neutral bathrooms in the Capitol building. Anyways, she writes, tonight, 2 Israeli embassy staffers were gunned down near a Jewish museum targeted under the banner of, quote, Free Palestine. When hate marches with scarves and a COVID mask and calls itself justice, innocent Jews die. This was not a protest. This was a hate crime. And I just made the comment, bringing COVID into this is somewhat unhinged.
Yeah.
And you know, it's just we know why we're conflating COVID into this. They are going to go after people who are upset with their genocide and want to be able to strip Americans' rights to wear a mask so they can be more easily tracked via AI and eventually rounded up. We're seeing the rolling out of a phase in their plan that they already wanted to implement. Now they have an opening to do so more easily. And The Guardian just published an article titled, quote, Democratic and Republican lawmakers condemn anti-Semitism after Israeli embassy staff shooting. And they quoted in the article AOC, absolutely nothing justifies the murder of innocents. Because, you know, killing 2 people in America is bad, but killing 100,000 in Palestine is not. I am devastated by the killing of 2 people outside of the event here in Washington. Our prayers are with the victims, families, and loved ones of all impacted. As we wait more details, we must be clear that hatred has no home here. Anti-Semitism is a threat to all we hold dear as a society. It must be confronted and rooted out everywhere. So we're going to see a bipartisan crackdown on this shit.
Yeah, no doubt. Going back to her little COVID comment, though.
I want to hear your thought. Your
well,
because just before you go into it, I know as someone who's been on the left for a while, that COVID was like they're like, this is an authoritarian regime,
right? So here's why it's ironic. Her comment is very ironic because I'm, you know, where I stand on the whole COVID thing. You and I, we differ on that, and that's fine. Yeah. And I'm not trying to get into all that, but what I am saying is that on my side of the fence during COVID, one of our biggest critiques of the whole system was that COVID was used as an excuse for authoritarianism and cracking down on free speech. Mm-hmm. Doctors were fired. We know the whole fiasco with Joe Rogan and CNN. Anybody who spoke out and questioned things, hey, maybe we shouldn't lock down, maybe we shouldn't be pushing an untested vaccine, you know, those people got shut down. We saw the same behavior that we see directed at the pro-Palestinian movement, as far as firings, as far as intimidation, as far as doxing. All that was used during the COVID period by the Biden administration and just kind of trickled down from there. Okay, so that's the point I'm trying to make, is that anybody who might be like on that right wing vax conspiracy field, it's cool. You and I are cool, but also understand that this is the same type of behavior that we're seeing. You're using an incident to now excuse a major authoritarian crackdown on people who are critical of a foreign country that we are sending our tax money to kill children. I want to make it very clear that try to have that pattern recognition when it comes to this. So I think how we should respond to this in the movement, and this is important. This is my kind of like my call to action. If you know somebody who is on the right wing, their family member, their friend, whatever, try to build that pattern recognition within them, saying, hey, look, we have now conspiracy theories. The thing about them is they can be detrimental or they can be very useful, regardless of whether they're true or not. There's people out, a lot of us have a conspiracy mind just by what we've seen in the past, few decades. It can be a useful tool, because if we can start this turning into a false flag conspiracy theory, just like the performative effect is the same either way, the performative effect of us pushing the conspiracy theory is also the same, in the sense that if Americans start to gravitate towards this inclination of thinking that everything is a false flag, I believe that it'll have a net positive. in this whole situation, meaning they will be critical of every single incident that they see, and they will not respond to the media's manufactured consent. So regardless if it's a false flag or not, it doesn't matter. The fact that people are believing it's a false flag is actually very healthy, because it means that they are now reacting to the media in a critical way, as opposed to just going along with it like, oh goddamn, these people are terrorists, we got to start now looking at everybody who's pro-Palestinian as a terrorist. Instead, they're saying, nah, fuck you, false flag, I don't believe you. That's healthier than the alternative. That's all. That's my take on it.
I mean, if we are waging an information war against, Zionists waging an information war against us, I'll take the wins. I guess
I'll take it. We got to start taking W's, man. Let's not split hairs over our wins. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I still want to definitely give the disclaimer, like, we don't fucking have it. We don't know anything. We don't
Absolutely.
even so Ken Clip. How much time do you have left?
Let's do like 10 more minutes or whatever you're good with.
All right, yeah. Well, I might stay on a little more to play some clips for the audience, because I know you have a hard out. But let's look at the manifesto, as the alleged manifesto obtained by Ken Klippenstein. Israel Embassy shooter manifesto. He gives a disclaimer. He says, I believe the document to be authentic for several reasons, including the fact that it is signed by Rodriguez and time-stamped well before he was named by law enforcement or any media. I'm publishing it here not to glorify the violence, which I find abhorrent and condemn, but so the public can better understand the truth of what happened. Refusing to confront the content of these texts often creates an information vacuum that is quickly filled by hoax documents, conspiracy theories, or selective leaks from authorities that can distort the facts. That's a really good point about the selective leaks. We've seen so many selective leaks since October 7th of 2023. It's been absurd. I believe that sunlight is the best disinfectant, especially when politics is involved, as the document makes clear. Okay. So, anyways, so to begin, halintar is a word that means something like thunder or lightning. In the wake of an act, people look for a text to fix its meaning, so here's an attempt. The atrocities, and this is, again, I'm starting to quote the manifesto here, the atrocities committed by Israelis against Palestine defy description and defy quantification. Instead of reading descriptions mostly, we watch them unfold on video, sometimes live. After a few months of rapidly mounting death tolls, Israel has obliterated the capacity to even continue counting the dead, which has served its genocide well. At the time of writing, the Gaza Health Ministry records 53,000 killed by traumatic force, at least 10,000 lie under the rubble, and who knows how many thousands more dead of preventable disease, hunger, with tens of thousands now at risk of imminent famine due to Israeli blockade, all enabled by Western and Arab government complicity. I don't hear any lies yet. Okay, so first of all, what more at this point can one say about the proportion of mangled and burned and exploded human beings whom were children? We who let this happen will never deserve the Palestinians' forgiveness. They've let us know as much. An armed action is not necessarily a military action. It's usually not. Usually it is theater and spectacle, a quality it shares with many unarmed actions. Nonviolent protest in the opening weeks of the genocide seemed to signal some sort of turning point. Okay, here's where it gets more salient. Never before had so many tens of thousands joined the Palestinians in the street across the West. Never before had so many American politicians been forced to concede that, rhetorically at least, the Palestinians were human beings too. But thus far, the rhetoric has not amounted to much. Okay, so he mentions Aaron Bushnell. Aaron Bushnell and others sacrificed themselves in the hopes of stopping the massacre, and the state works to make us feel their sacrifice was made in vain, that there is no hope of escalating for Gaza, and no point in bringing the war home. We can't let them succeed. Their sacrifices were not in vain. And it keeps going on. A word about the morality of armed demonstration. Those of us against the genocide take satisfaction in arguing that the perpetrators and abettors have forfeited their humanity. I sympathize with this viewpoint and understand its value in soothing the psyche, which cannot bear to accept the atrocities of witnesses. And then he talks about, historical precedents in Vietnam of one activist trying to push Robert McNamara, one of the architects of the Vietnam War, off a boat, stuff like that. And then he concedes in the final two sentences, but I think to most Americans, such an action would have been illegible, would seem insane. I'm glad that today, at least, there are many Americans for which the action will be highly legible and in some funny way, the only sane thing to do.
Okay, a few questions I have for you on this manifesto. Is it standard procedure to release to the public a manifesto during an investigation? Is that normal? Is that per protocol for law enforcement to do that?
Well, Ken Klippenstein's the one who published it.
So, what's your take? What's your take on the manifesto? Like, is it bunk? Is it, you think it's real? I know it's on a lot of people's mind. Was it manufactured? What's your take?
It's pretty well written for an FBI agent, and it hits all the points.
Well, FBI agents can use Chat GPT too. So I mean,
yeah. Okay. So first of all, I don't know. Ken Klippenstein is an incredibly reliable source. He's been around for fucking ever, like in Washington D.C. forever. He gets the lowdown on a lot of stuff. I'm not sure the mechanisms by which he obtained it. I don't think he's published it, but he does have a solid reputation. So that can't be discounted. Okay. However, beyond that, I don't fucking know.
If it okay, let's be hypothetical here. If it was manufactured, based on what you just read, how would that be strategic in releasing a manifesto like that? That's my question. Because
you know what I would want to see if I expected if I expected it to be like a true false flag with that they would use to crack down on shit, I'd expect a manifesto conflating Zionism with anti-Semitism, talking about like the Jews control the government, stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, or perhaps being more objective and being more accurate to what because what he wrote was excellent. I mean, it hits all the good points, right? Well written. And I agree with most
we talk about.
Exactly. So by doing so, maybe it's like a way of normalizing this type of conversation, the objective, moral, ethical standpoints of the pro-Palestinian movement, now associating those valid points with
political violence.
With political violence. So it's shifting that Overton window. It's saying like, hey, even talking like this in a very balanced and objective and ethical and moral approach, that's terrorist talk.
And here again, it doesn't. This is why we keep driving home. It doesn't matter if it's a false flag because we might never know. But the performative effect is the same, whether he wrote it or a Fed wrote it, or it's just a completely misleading document. It's still going to have the same performative effect.
Yeah.
Now, there were some bizarre things. If you have another minute, I'm going to show you.
Tell me about the bizarre things, because that's where I'm out of the loop. I'm not privy to.
All right, let's look at. Hang on, let me pull this up. I need her name so I can pretend like I'm actually prepared. So there was a personal testimony that was on the news. RTE News from Ireland reposted it. I follow them. I don't know what the original source was. I think it may have been them. So an eyewitness has recalled interacting with a suspect moments after 2 Israeli embassy staffs were shot dead in Washington, D.C. Jewelry designer Katie Kalischer was attending a panel discussion at the Capitol Jewish Museum when she heard gunshots. Here's her testimony on the news space.
p.m. we heard gunshots coming from outside, and we didn't really understand what's going on. And then a man came in, and he looked very scared, and we thought that he was just in the street and heard these gunshots and maybe came into the building because he wanted to be somewhere safe and not in the streets. So people are helping him, and they're talking to him, and I'm like, so do you like the museum? Just kind of trying to relax him. And he's like, oh, what kind of museum is this? So I told him it's a Jewish museum. And he asked me, do you think that that's why they did it? Like it referencing the gunshots that we had heard. And it took me a second. I'm like, no, I don't think that's why. I'm sure it's unrelated. So he pulls out his keffiyeh and he says, I did it. I did it for Gaza. Free Palestine. And he's chanting this. And then suddenly the police come in and they arrest him. There was a lot of chaos going on because there were so many police officers and like SWAT team kind of looking people with like big guns, and so it just felt really surreal.
Yeah, what's surreal? Having a SWAT team 8 minutes out. I mean, I'm just pointing that out because usually you have to go to the ready room, get kitted up, fucking load ammo, get in the fucking tactical van, and then roll out. Takes time to put on a kit and get your shit ready.
Yeah, I almost got shot by a SWAT guy one time because they didn't have time to get ready, and he showed up in like plain clothes, and the only thing he had on was a vest that said SWAT, but he was covering it up with this freaking AR. Almost got in a fight with the SWAT guy, point man. Long story, but it was a doctor who prevented me from attacking the SWAT guy. Long story, but yeah, it's pretty sus. Commentary there. Not gonna lie. I think the fact that she specifically mentioned that he said, "Oh, do you think that's why they did it? Because it's a Jewish museum," thereby implying that this was based on pure anti-Semitism and not, anti-Zionism. It's pretty suspect, pretty sketchy. Now, I don't know. What do you make of it? I mean, what's your take on her demeanor, the way she's saying it? You were in interrogation.
A long time ago. I don't know. She seems pretty calm, collected. She seems to just like describing events as they unfolded. I don't see anything inherently weird about it. She was very polished when it came to the interview. I don't know if she's had media training or experience before. These are things, again, we don't know. But one thing I would like to bring up is a friend of the show, Jen King, made this video, and I just wanted to represent other voices in the movement about it. And here's her take on all of this and things we shouldn't lose sight of.
Free Palestine while in custody.
The timing of this is insane. I mean, in the coming hours, days, and weeks, thousands more of Palestinians, babies, children will starve to death because of American policy. They tried to distract us a couple days ago with Biden's cancer diagnosis and nobody gave a shit. And now with this event, this is dominating all of the American headlines, the entire media landscape in the US and probably globally. And now you can't find anything anywhere about the Holocaust, the starvation and extermination campaign happening in Gaza due to American policy. Every act of violence, either by the left, perceived by the left, or manufactured for the left by the state, will be used as a justification for the state to enact even more violence, even more crackdowns, even more repression on us.
Oh yeah, and she ended with National Guard people in the New York subway from today.
So ridiculous. Dude, I'm glad you played that. I saw that this morning, and I was thinking about that. I was thinking about how the other effect that this is having, besides it being a false, let's say it's the false flag or manufacturing consent for an authoritarian crackdown using law enforcement is one possibility, and of course the other one is, of course, taking up the news space. And just splurging it so that it takes up so much of the news cycle that we don't hear about the 14,000 babies that are about to starve to death. Right. That's another great point. In fact, we probably should have opened up with that point, because I think that's probably the most dire effect it's having, is that they're trying to keep the cameras off of Gaza as much as possible right now, because right now, like you said earlier in the previous interviews,
it's kind of like in a way the end phase of the genocide.
Yeah, it's the final solution is they're trying to roll out. I mean, I've been in communication with some people in Gaza, and they're saying that there's so much chaos there. Nobody even in Gaza, people in Gaza don't even know what's going on, because they've been separated. They've been you got bombings happening in areas where they can't even pinpoint where they're happening. They got massacres going on where nobody has a camera to even film it. It is in the final solution phase right now in Gaza, and they have got to flood the news space with as much bullshit to keep us off of that region right now. This is the critical part of this is the critical part of allowing an atrocity to happen, is you flood the news space with everything else, like Biden's ass cancer, fucking this I don't know, whatever else some celebrity is going through. Flood it until the atrocity is over, and then afterwards be like, oh my god, what was happening this whole time? There was a Holocaust? Sorry, we didn't know. That's the biggest effect that this is having. This is having. It's not even the excuse for an authoritarian crackdown. I don't even think that's going to take place. I don't think that's going to work. But I do think that it will be effective in keeping our minds off of the absolute end phase of a real life genocide happening right now. Yeah, I think in the coming month we're going to see the full results of the genocide happening in Gaza, but it will be too late. We will not have heard it while it was happening, and that's why it's very, very important that we keep these news updates of what's happening in Gaza right now. Keep flooding it. Keep sending it to your friends. Take video footage, screen record posts that you see on Instagram, and text it to people who are not as plugged in.
Yeah,
that's my call to action.
And either way, whatever the fuck this was, it's beside the point. And their strategy is good by flooding the news cycle with reports of this attack, because guess what Americans will always care more about? What happens in America than outside of America. And governments learn from each other. So this affects people in Europe too. So if America cracks down, Europe's going to crack down. Britain's going to crack down. And they're going to use this as an emblem, again, to do whatever they already wanted to do. And of course, they're going to also, again, I want to keep stressing this, they're going to bundle this with the ICE and immigration crackdowns.
Yes.
So when Nancy Mace says, we can't have protesters with masks on, we can't have citizens with masks on, well, guess what I'm looking at? ICE agents, it's now standard operating procedure to always be masked. What the fuck is that?
Yeah, and you touched on something with ICE, which is important. Here's what I'm hoping that we can possibly leverage this to be a positive as far as bundling ICE in with this. See, we have people on the right who are anti-Israel, but they are anti-immigrant, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you got this weird soup in this movement. You have anti-Israel people, pro-Palestinian people, and anti-Israel and anti-immigrant people who are definitely against Israel, but they are all for ICE rounding up these immigrants, right? We've seen this combination happening. Okay, I'm hoping that by this regime bundling ICE with pro-Israel, with the absolute the what do you call it, the 100% committed support to Israel and the cracking down on free speech. I hope that the anti-immigrant people are now associating ICE with this same monster, because if we can at least make that happen, then maybe we can bring them over to our side as far as educating them that ICE is just a military arm of Israel at this point. It is a military arm of the Zionists in Washington, on Wall Street, by the ruling class. If we can start connecting the dots that ICE is now connected to the ruling class, to the elites, that the right wing knows damn well about, maybe we can bring somebody over to our side on that front too.
That's interesting. It may be. We'll have to work on the rhetorical strategy a little bit more, but it's like, ICE, uses the same tactics that the IDF does, and the same politicians that deploy the ICE against U.S. citizens and people within American soil are deployed by the same politicians bought by Israel. Something like that. We're going to have to workshop it.
Yeah, dude, that's exactly the type of shit we need to start to be talking about. How we workshop our rhetorical strategies. Exactly like you said. Exactly the points that you just lined out. 100%, bro.
We should come up with an information warfare primer about this. Like push the false flag narrative on the right and connect. Just do an basically an imperial boomerang synopsis. Palestine to ICE to the prison industrial complex, which makes a lot of people a lot of money. Not you. And maybe just start workshopping that. Yeah.
I think this is where we shine. I think this is where podcasts like this really shine, is pushing these strategies and workshopping these things, because we got to stop just, reacting to the news. We have to start reacting to the news in a strategic way and actually coming up with solutions. I lost my train of thought about ICE. Oh yeah. Another thing about ICE is that for you pro ICE people out there, understand that this administration, one of the first things it used ICE for was arresting Mahmoud Khalil. He had nothing to do with drug trafficking, dangerous immigrant-related crime. His crime was simply organizing a protest against a genocide committed by a foreign country.
A peaceful protest.
Peaceful protest. He was critical of the country that is sucking our tax money and getting us into wars. Sounds to me like a patriot. So understand
he could literally be burning the American flag and shouting "Death to America" and be fine,
and still be fine. So understand that was one of the first things that they used ICE for. That should create some type of pattern recognition to people who are pro ICE, saying like, "Hey, it's not to keep you safe. ICE is not rounding up a bunch of heinous criminals who are putting Americans in danger. That's not who they're arresting. They're arresting, parents, hardworking families, splitting them up. Nothing to do with your safety." So, anyways,
it will be interesting to see, because I'm gonna have to come back to the United States eventually, and I'm gonna have to go through customs. And Josie got wrapped up, Jacob Berger got wrapped up. All the people I interact with like regularly have been wrapped up. So it'd be interesting to see if I'm interrogated by ICE. Are they going to start being deployed in lieu of Customs and Border Patrol? Aren't they?
They're gonna when they're going through your file, they're gonna be like, "Oh shit, he was in interrogation. Hey, do we have any updated interrogation techniques? Because he's gonna know all of them."
No, I mean, no. My as someone who used to do that, don't fucking say anything.
Yeah.
They're gonna try to use techniques to like scare you, and then just be like, "Kidding, we're cool. Let's just like talk, so you don't have to miss your flight." And the only thing I'm gonna say is,
or ask them questions, and just be like, "Hey, let's not talk about me. Let's talk about you. Tell me about you."
Don't think that's gonna work. No, because that's when you can mess up and get drawn in. Don't even put yourself in a position to get into the trap. Just say, "I'm not saying anything without the presence of a lawyer." That's it, and just keep repeating that. And unless you torture me, not really going to say shit. So I can wait here all day. I have travel insurance in case I miss my flight, so I'll get reimbursed.
Good. I was going to ask you that if you have travel insurance. Okay, cool.
Cool, guys. I mean, we're going to be tracking this, but again, this is not the fucking story. This was, if this guy was white and he killed 20 kids in a school, this wouldn't be a story. It'd be part of the male loneliness, incel, mental health.
and the SWAT would have showed up 45 minutes later instead of 8 minutes.
And they wouldn't even have gone in.
No, they would be on their phone. They'd be on their phone. Well, any call to action we could give, just as something for them to chew on. We got to give a call to action on this.
Yeah. You just keep waging the information war and stay on task. Don't get like bogged down or distracted. You could pretty much just ignore this story, just like they ignore a bunch of stories about the ongoing genocide. Just keep doing what you're doing. It's fucking working. This is why it's working, which is why people are like, this is a weird time for this to happen. Right when the EU's reevaluating all their trade deals with Israel.
Great call to action.
Yeah.
No, great call to action.
And I just want to say this. I know you have to leave in a second. Israel has no strategic depth. Okay, we're not just talking about militarily. We're talking about economically. We're talking about politically. The second they actually get a sanction, the trade deals don't get restored. They're going to freak out. This is why they freak out even when we're like, we're not stopping arms shipments. We're just pausing 2 kinds of bombs. That's it. And they go into a meltdown because they know that once the precedent has been set, because they watched South Africa dissolve in front of them, their biggest buddy in apartheid and oppression. When the sanctions started, it started building, growing and growing like a snowball rolling down a hill. And once an actual sanction gets hit, it's going to start putting the entire system into cascade failure with new sanction, and they cannot exist without us. And that's why they're freaking out. And that's why they're fine with us sanctioning settlements and settlers like Daniela Weiss for our genocide. Because fine, whatever. You're going to sanction a couple individuals, a couple of legal settlements. But once the actual state of Israel gets sanctioned, that's the beginning of the end, because it will only snowball from there. And this is why they're flooding the news cycle and putting all their Hasbarists on this, because Europe is reevaluating their free trade deal. Doesn't mean they're going to change anything, but it's very nerve-wracking for them. So ignore it. Keep pushing the narrative and doing whatever you're doing, because they're actually freaking out. They're grasping at this so hard, and I'm not sure it's a bold move, Cotton, but I'm not sure it's going to work out for them.
Yeah. Great calls to action. Here's mine. Number one, I'm going back to your Greg and Alina's episode a couple days ago regarding the manufactured leaks, the obvious manufactured leaks to the public about this disintegration between Trump and Netanyahu's relationship. One of the biggest temptations we have in this movement is that we're looking for hope in the wrong places. I understand that we want a W, and that the problem is when we look for those W's in our leadership. Everybody gets excited when Trump may do like a little move, or Biden does a little move that might show some opposition to Israel. Do not look forward and do not be thirsty for that type of affirmation. There is hope, and I've said this in multiple videos I've made. The hope is in us. I want to tell you something. The reason why we have turned the tide against Israel so effectively, it has not been because of any leadership. Democrats and Republicans. Yeah, the Democrats and Republicans have nothing to. If it wasn't for this movement, they would have still continued to go 100% full force for Israel. The only reason why they didn't is because we pushed back and we have turned the cultural tide. The BDS movement, that was us. That wasn't any government office. That wasn't any big institution. That was us people, average poor people, peasants on the ground. We made that happen, and it has had a astounding effect on Israel's economy. Their economy is only being held up right now because of our tax money. We literally they would have collapsed internally, and they would be eating each other alive right now if it wasn't for our tax money. That's number one. Okay, number two, when it comes to these situations that may or may not be false flags, one of the most effective things you can do, because this movement is so spread out throughout the United States, everybody has a right-wing conservative or that person who watches Fox News or CNN and MSNBC. One of the biggest things you can do is try to help them build pattern recognition. Help them build the pattern recognition of manufactured consent. If you can educate them, and even if it's like little spoonfuls of education and knowledge, spoon feed them if you have to. Do it in baby language. Use puppets, but build pattern recognition with the people who buy mainstream narratives. So that's number two. Number three, just keep doing what you're doing and understand that it's you that are making the change. Nobody up top is going to be making the change for us. So three things. Number three is kind of like a repeat of number one. I just worded it differently. So that's where I'm at.
Cool, man. Well, I'm actually going to stick around because I need to call out some people for bonus content if you guys also want to stick around. But we usually end with call to actions. But since you have a heart out and you got shit to do, I'm just going to keep yapping. Not like Cory Booker. I'm actually going to have to say something.
You're not going to do a filibuster?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Love you, fam. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate
you. Cool.
Be easy.
Yep. Gotcha. Bye. Right. I'm going to stick around. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Turn off the app.
I'm trying. I can't do it. Where's the button?
All right, cool. Anyways, guys, thanks for sticking around for the after hours. I'm actually talking because it pushes it further into the algorithm if we break an hour, because that's like podcast length. Apparently, I was told that by an expert, and I just wanted to say before I call out Scott Ritter, we do live in a country that justifies the daily killings of people who are homeless, indigenous, black, disabled, LGBTQ+, elderly, and immigrants. But somehow it's the killing of those working for an apartheid state committing a Holocaust that gets Dems and Republicans on their feet. When have you ever seen more than a handful of politicians speak out when a trans person is killed? When a lesbian teen girl is beaten for using the women's restroom? or a black man is killed by the police. Pay attention to what violence they're willing to ignore. Remember, the only violence that is permissible is violence done by the state and its approved apparatuses. So, okay, now that we're done with that, I need to call out people who pretend to be pro-Palestine and pro the movement and anti-war, and people who have no real ideology and are actually dangerous and toxic as fuck. There's a reason I have never interviewed this guy. My editor at Mint Press has wanted me to interview him. I have refused every time. I've said categorically when I got hired, I am never going to interview Scott Ritter, and I never will. And I'm vindicated right now with this fucking bullshit post. All right. So he just posted this fucking dumbass rant. Fuck him. America cannot tolerate the normalization of political violence. Dude, where the fuck have you been? I've been pepper sprayed 7 goddamn times since this started, and arrested, and I've watched my friends get beat with nightsticks. So, okay, sure. Again, if it's the state, it's fine. I don't give a damn how angry people are at Israel for its ongoing genocide in Gaza. And for legal reasons, and actually, I am not condoning political violence. This attack didn't help. It should not be repeated. This is not how we do things because it's only going to make things worse. But the place he's coming from, I strongly disagree. Nothing excuses the horrific act of violence perpetrated against the 2 employees of the Israeli embassy. Okay, fine. I don't have anything wrong with that. Free Palestine cannot become a slogan that tolerates murder. Okay? Also, fine. That's not the information operations that we're running. Also, murder is not chill, which we say about Israel. Just wanted to put that out there. Okay, so Yaron Lachinsky and Sarah Milgram were young diplomats in the prime of their lives. If you look at what they've said, they were very much, they had some problematic beliefs. Let's just leave it at that. The cause of Palestine was not furthered by their murder. I agree about that. This is a huge setback for the cause of peace. Motherfucker, we're not going for peace. Who the fuck is going for peace? Oh my God. We're going for justice. We're going for liberation, not just of Palestine, but of ourselves. The fuck is talking about peace? I would like to point out that the various pro-Palestine demonstrations taking place throughout the United States have not saved a single Palestinian life. Yes, we've always said that protesting was the least effective means of producing political change. It's almost more useless than voting. Anyways, if humanitarian relief could be dispatched to Gaza, there is the real possibility that children who would otherwise perish or suffer could somehow be saved. Okay, that's a truism. Rather than creating the conditions where these people were murdered in their name, the pro-Palestinian activists should have reached out to these 2 young diplomats who have no political power, cannot do anything, to engage in a dialogue which could save Palestinian lives. They're Zionists. They're fucking Zionists. What are you talking about? Building a wall of hatred accomplishes nothing. We didn't build the wall, and these people are ethno-fascists. Trying to reason with them really isn't going to work. You need to pound their fucking pocketbooks and the people that support them to cut off support, to isolate that into a pariah state and make it so that they have to act like good neighbors and stop acting with impunity and violence throughout the entire region. Building a bridge of dialogue has the potential of solving everything. Has this guy ever freaking argued with a Zionist? Or at least saving lives that otherwise would be lost? Okay, it's time for those who shout Free Palestine. That's everyone who watches podcasts, okay? Scott Ritter, he's about to fucking tell you what you need to do. To sit down and reflect on their goals and objectives and ask themselves, is what they are doing advancing the cause of peace or promoting acts of murder? Again, peace is the status quo. A ceasefire is the status quo. Peace means occupation, repression. The same technology and policing methods that are used to enact apartheid in the West Bank are used on us. What the fuck are you talking about peace for, dude? You think the state, the American empire, is ever going to be at peace? Okay. Okay, where was I? I didn't expect to rant this hard, but like every line is so stupid and fucking problematic. How many Palestinians' lives have been saved by these demonstrations? None. That's not the point. The point, the three foundational aspects of social change are agitate, educate, organize. Okay. This is not about saving Palestinians. We want it to be, but we're not naive. All right. We're trying to educate the American population, agitate them into at least knowing what's going on in the hopes that we can educate them, bring them on board, and then organize. Get them to do simple things like BDS. This guy, and of course, Elena couldn't make it, so I'm going to say a couple things, remarks that she had to say. None. It's not about these demonstrations do not save Palestinian lives. Obviously, they don't. How many Palestinian lives could be saved by engaging in constructive dialogue with Israeli diplomats? Fucking zero. What is this idiot sex offender talking about? Even one would be a victory. Oskar Schindler couldn't save all the Jews destined to be murdered by the Nazis, but he saved some. Regardless of what anyone might think of Israel, and I'm sure the Israelis will take umbrage over my allusion to Schindler's List. Okay, whatever. Working with Israel to save Palestinian lives is far more productive than demonstrating and achieving nothing more than motivating a crazed activist to commit murder in your name. Turning the tragic murder of Yaron and Sharon into a catalyst of positive energy. Reach out to the Israeli embassy. Offer sincere words of condolence. And then begin a dialogue that could help change the dynamic of Israeli-Palestinian relations. Remember when fucking Hind Rajab was killed and Scott Ritter wouldn't shut the fuck up about it? Where's that now? Yeah, again, this is why I never interviewed this dude. I don't fucking know what his deal is. So I sent this to Alina, who couldn't make it because she had work or something. I said, her response to this was, LOL, that's horrific. What a load of bullshit. He falls prey to anything. This is why I don't bother with Scott Ritter. His reaction is exactly what they want. The double standards in what is horrific violence and what is not horrific violence. I responded, in the end, he was always a reactionary. He should have said that reciprocal violent blowback to a genocide by rogue actors like Rodriguez was inevitable, like a fucking adult. Yeah. And she says that's why asking for way too much for someone who that's asking for way too much from someone who has no actual ideological backing, none whatsoever. And like you said, he's purely a reactionary, doesn't believe in anything, and ultimately, he's also rather chauvinistic. Yeah, yeah. So, anyways, not helpful for the movement. He's been fucking getting a lot of notoriety since like 2023 in October, talking about tactics and stuff. Cool. You were never an ally. Fuck you. We're now at the point where just about everybody, we are watching the worst ethnic cleansing of our time. It's being live streamed, and you're either kind of against that completely, or you're working on the side of the oppressor. That's it. So we know where he stands now, and he can go fuck himself. And again, I'm so glad I trusted my instincts and refused to interview that dude. Also, I don't agree with his military analysis on a lot of stuff. And yeah, whew, man, I'm pissed now. So if you see anybody giving that kind of reaction, no. It's kind of like why liberals are, it's like what Malcolm X said. That was like a really neo-lib response. It's like, you know what? Violence is bad. Everybody just needs to cool down and talk it out. Even though one side is backed by the most powerful empire in human history, and the other side is running around fighting in flip-flops. Okay, but we just need to sit down as equals and trust that the empire and its colonial entity will be reasoned with. Yeah. Cool. He's never given any sort of analysis of the material conditions of Palestinians, of the Americans. I don't know what his deal is. I agree with Alina. What the fuck does he believe in? And hopefully he goes away forever and is forever irrelevant. That pissed me off. Yeah. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. I'm sorry we're not doing Fuck Around Fridays. I'm too busy. I've overcommitted myself. Maybe Mark will do something by himself with one of our comrades. I'll ask him about that. But if not, this is going to be our Friday episode. Sorry it wasn't that fun. We'll try to make it up to you as soon as possible, guys. And yeah, that's it for now. I think this is going to be the last time we talk about this because we've said everything we need to say. We already know what doesn't really matter what the details are. Doesn't matter if he was crazy. Doesn't matter if he was lucid. It was a dumb move, whether it was a false flag or not. Doesn't really matter. The police state's coming for us all. So cool. No one's going to save us but us. Any sort of progress that's been made has not been made because of politicians. It's been made by you guys. So thanks so much for watching. You're the best. Fuck collaborators and that dude. And we will see you next week, maybe tomorrow if Mark wants to do something fun. I will be out doing stuff, undisclosed stuff. And the entire week, Mark will be in charge at the helm. He has a couple episodes lined up and should be good. And if you haven't seen his episode, this 3-hour interview with the author of The Global Police State, check it out. It's really good. I haven't had time to watch it, but the comments are like, this is awesome. So check that out, and we'll see you next time here on Colonial Outcasts.